Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we sift through the noise, stack up our sources, and pull out those essential nuggets of knowledge to help you feel instantly well-informed. Today, we're tackling a challenge that plagues pretty much all of us. Goal achievement. You know the drill, right? You've got these big dreams, massive projects, maybe even just a daily to-do list that feels like it's fighting you every step of the way. Why is it so incredibly hard to stick to a plan, even when we know, deep down, it's totally in our best interest? It often feels like we're constantly running what our source calls an interminable hurdle race, just setting new objectives day in and day out until the day we die.
It's a perpetual incline, isn't it, really? From the moment you stumble out of bed, there's always an objective, large or small, whether it's excelling at work, embarking on a new creative project, or just trying to avoid watching cat videos all day instead of getting things done. The necessity to set and accomplish goals is, well, non-negotiable. And the question is, if this is such a fundamental part of being human, why are we, as a species, so consistently bad at it?
That's the million-dollar question. So what exactly are we diving into today to tackle this universal struggle?
Today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly insightful source, How to Set Goals with Kaizen by Anthony Raymond. And this isn't your typical self-help book that just gives you a checklist, you know. It's a guide that promises to fundamentally shift our perspective on why we fail and, more importantly, how we can achieve our goals with genuine gusto. The core promise here is to harmonize our conscious aspirations with those deeper, often resistant motivations that lurk within us.
And it does that by bringing together some truly powerful concepts from the East. We're talking about Lingchi, Hansei, Ikigai, and Kaizen. Now, on their own, each of these is a profound idea, but the book argues, and will explore, their incredible synergy. These ideas, when combined, offer a unique lens through which to view goal fulfillment, promising a path greater self-discipline, focus, the all-important stick-to-itiveness, and raw, unadulterated drive.
That's right. Our mission today is to extract practical, actionable wisdom from these concepts. We want to help you not just understand them intellectually, but to actually apply them to your own personal hurdle race in life. The goal is to transform your entire approach to daily challenges, making even your most challenging objectives seem not just achievable, but genuinely desirable to pursue.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've all been there, right? You've got a big goal. Maybe it's consistently hitting your workout targets or acing a tough professional certification. And here's the kicker. You know you have the physical and mental ability to do it. The book uses this vivid thought experiment. Imagine a mad scientist holds a gun to your head and forces you to jog 5 miles nightly. Or you're locked in a room with a biology textbook, and if you ace the exam, you get $1 million. You could do it.
Yeah.
So why don't we do these things without that extreme external pressure?
It's a crucial paradox. The source points out that it's usually not a lack of intelligence or stamina that holds us back. Instead, it's a deficit in conviction and willpower for long-term pursuits. Our conscious mind might be fully on board with self-actualization, wanting to climb that mountain of success. But there's another part of us, what the book calls our lower mind, or colloquially, the lizard brain, that has a very different agenda.
The lizard brain. So this is the part of us that's often our biggest internal saboteur.
Exactly. Our lower mind, as the book explains, prefers inactivity. It lives very much in the here and now. When your conscious mind is thinking about a deadline next week, your lizard brain perceives that as a million years away, an abstract concept that requires no immediate attention. When you try to make it engage in a bothersome task, like studying a textbook for 3 hours, it will actively invoke emotional states like fatigue, boredom, or procrastination. Its primary directive, as the adage goes, is to help you survive, not necessarily to thrive. It guards your precious energy.
So it's a constant internal conflict. Your conscious mind wants to be productive, to pursue self-actualization, but your lower mind is just saying, no thanks, I'd rather conserve energy and stay comfortable. The book promises a way to harmonize such divergent imperatives. How do we even begin to bridge that gap?
Well, the key lies in understanding the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. When that external pressure is there, the gunpoint scenario or the $1 million, that's extrinsic motivation, purely external. But intrinsic motivation, the kind we really want to cultivate for sustained success, comes from within. It's driven by a genuine desire for mastery, the thrill of the pursuit, or the deep satisfaction of achieving something beneficial. The core promise of this deep dive is to learn how to, well, trick your mind into becoming intrinsically motivated, moving beyond reliance on external drivers.
Okay. And the first concept to help us understand why we often fail is Lingchi, a term with a pretty intense historical origin.
Indeed. Lingchi, commonly translated as death by 1,000 cuts, was an ancient Chinese torture method. Gruesome stuff, really. While the historical details are stark, the book explicitly states that we're interested in the metaphor, not the gruesome reality.
Right, the metaphor. So how does this brutal metaphor apply to our personal failings?
The source argues that most human failures aren't defined by a single catastrophic act. Instead, our lives are burdened by 1,000 little depravities, 1,000 little sins, or 1,000 little cuts. Think about your struggles in health, wealth, or relationships. They're usually not the result of one big catastrophic event, are they? They originate from many little problems, those innumerable, seemingly minuscule issues that we allow to accumulate, often without even noticing them.
Like the little white lies you tell, or that extra dessert, or skipping the gym again, or endlessly scrolling online instead of working. Individually, as the book says, these are hardly noticeable, but their accumulation leads to disastrous outcomes. It's that classic saying, the straw that broke the camel's back, which, interestingly, has echoes and observations from other cultures like Seneca or Hobbes. It highlights our limited ability to identify the true root causes of complex problems.
That's a crucial point. It's so easy to blame an emotionally distant parent, an unfair boss, or just bad luck. But it's far harder to identify our own long chain of poor decisions or the many lapses in judgment we commit daily. This recognition, the self-awareness of our past transgressions, is foundational.
And the source connects Lingchi to the 7 deadly sins, but with a fascinating twist. These aren't biblical in origin, apparently.
No, not directly from the Bible. They originated with the Vivagories Ponticus and the Desert Fathers around the 4th century A.D. They saw them as pernicious afflictions to be restrained. It's a really insightful link. The book clarifies that the 7 sins, lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride, aren't inherently evil. Each actually has a utility when appropriately enacted. Lust enables mating, hunger drives sustenance, sloth can conserve energy. They only become sins when taken to the extreme.
So it's about balance, not eradication.
Right.
And the key insight here is how these vices manifest as 1,000 inconspicuous offenses in our daily lives. The example of the college student is so relatable. Watching too many videos when you should be studying, consuming unhealthy food, online shopping, or just endlessly thinking without action.
And the profound point is that a single night of mildly decadent behavior never hurt anyone. Instead, tragedy usually strikes following the accumulation of thousands of such evenings. These small, seemingly harmless choices add up over time to a pernicious attack on our life goals.
Okay, so beyond these ancient vices, the book offers a more practical taxonomy for our goals. The 3 goal killers.
Right.
The first one is inactivity.
Yeah, inactivity. It's a vicious cycle, really. Lethargy leads to fatigue, anxiety, and depression, which in turn leads to more lethargy. It's a negative feedback loop that spirals downwards. This causes us to lose valuable time. Major life goals often die a slow death from a million minor delays. Time is a precious resource that can never be replenished. Once it's gone for good.
And inactivity often leads to hasty decisions, doesn't it? Like that report you put off until the very last minute. You take shortcuts, make last-minute decisions, and the quality of the work suffers. This isn't just for students. Professionals face similar procrastination bouts, with potentially more damaging consequences for future goals.
Absolutely. It also causes us to miss valuable opportunities. Many grand achievements depend on what's called a serendipitous discovery, which simply cannot happen when you're sitting still. As the source states, it is only by walking the path that new paths will emerge. Stagnation means the adventures beyond the next bend will never be revealed.
The second goal killer is toxic people. We all know them, or have encountered them. Critics, people who pull you down, who live for the next weekend party, or who've just given up on life.
Yeah, and their intentions aren't necessarily evil, right? Your friends and family usually don't deliberately try to destroy your dreams, but their negativity, even unintentional, is detrimental to your life goals. This can even include parents who are either too restrictive or who try to live vicariously through their children's successes, constantly critiquing them. Then there are what the book calls gadabouts. those who long only for leisure, unable to commit to long-term goals that don't provide immediate positive stimuli. This short-sighted outlook hinders any lengthy pursuit.
And that leads to the crucial point. We are often the sum of the 5 people closest to us. This means we really need to be discerning about the company we keep if we want to accomplish our goals.
Absolutely. Quests are far easier when you're surrounded by like-minded comrades who are marching towards mutually beneficial goals. Just makes sense.
The third goal killer is crippling fear. This one feels primal. If you see a bear in the woods, your instinct is to stop, right? But when irrational fears continually halt our progress, that's when it becomes a problem.
Exactly. Your lower mind prioritizes safety and satiation. If it senses you're content now, it resists any new environment. This is why you might not raise your hand in a meeting or approach your boss with an idea or ask someone out. The fear might be warranted. Most new ventures fail, and some spectacularly. But the rub is that a few will succeed fabulously and lead to life-changing outcomes, like a new career path, a significant promotion, or meeting your future partner.
So managing risk and fear is a skill we have to hone. That trepidation about exchanging our current good enough situation for a new, uncertain one is a huge barrier. But change, as the source reminds us, is inevitable.
It is. We face governmental, economic, physiological, and psychological changes constantly. Our minds will see the world differently in a decade, and change often comes in the form of uncontrollable tragedies, illnesses, natural disasters, war. Our protective fortresses inevitably fall, as Marcus Aurelius puts it beautifully. Is any man afraid of change? What can take place without change? We must accept that constant transformation will forever be our contender.
So to recap Lingchi, it provides our diagnostic tool, showing us how these 1,000 little cuts, whether it's the insidious creep of inactivity, the drag of toxic people, or the paralysis of fear, slowly erode our dreams. The actionable insight here is, be relentlessly vigilant about the small things, because they're secretly building your future for better or worse.
And that profound insight that the meaning isn't in a finished product, but in the continuous effort, is the ultimate message of these Eastern philosophies. It sets the stage for the next step.
And that leads us directly into our second key concept, Hansei, or honest self-reflection. This is where we start to learn how to fight back against those 1,000 cuts.
Right. Precisely. Hansei is a deeply insightful Japanese term. Han means to turn over and examine, and sei means to look back upon in review of the past. So it's past examination, or self-reflection. In Japanese corporations like Toyota, it's a team development exercise where individuals humbly reflect on their shortcomings and devise strategies for improvement. Personally, it's about cultivating humility and victory, taking responsibility for our flaws, avoiding blame, and truly learning from our mistakes.
I love that quote from Søren Kierkegaard that sums it up perfectly. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Hansei helps us make sense of that long chain of decisions that led us to our current situation, whether good or bad.
The formal definition provided is clear. The practice of carefully identifying, considering, and taking responsibility for past mistakes or shortcomings, followed by the implementation of changes to ensure that these errors do not reoccur. It's a structured way to analyze those links in our chain of decisions that led us astray.
And this idea isn't unique to Japan, is it? We see echoes of Hansei in ancient Greek philosophy with know thyself, famously championed by Socrates, who said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Germans have a similar proverb. Self-awareness is the first step to improvement. And of course, the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous is admitting you have a problem. It seems like a universal wisdom.
Precisely. Hansei essentially ritualizes this often spontaneous but inconsistent process of self-critique that many cultures value.
So this concept of Hansei sounds incredibly powerful, but also challenging. For someone just starting, what's the very first practical step they should take to actually implement this in their daily life?
Right. The first step is crucial. It's simply to find a time and place for quiet contemplation. Think of it as your personal reflection meeting, or Hanseikai as they call it. You're encouraged to try for 10 to 20 minutes daily, perhaps before bed or after dinner, in a quiet, comfortable space where you can be alone with your thoughts. No distractions.
And once you're in that quiet space, what do you actually do?
Step 2 is to review a past failure or mistake. Set a timer for about 10 minutes and pick a recent goal you failed to accomplish. Ask yourself, what was my original intent? What actions did I take? What was the expected outcome versus the actual outcome? And crucially, why was there a difference? This process is designed to dredge up the specific actions that led to the undesirable result. And it doesn't have to be a major life goal initially. You can start small, asking what went wrong today. Maybe you forgot to silence your phone or spent too much time on emails, or maybe you didn't react well to a coworker. The vital part is to focus only on your own contribution, no matter how minute. The book warns against mind wandering and rationalization. If your mind starts to wander or blame others, bring it back to a single focus question like, what could I have done to handle today's work situation better?
So after reflecting for a few days, I imagine I'd start noticing patterns. We tend to make the same mistakes over and over again, don't we?
You absolutely will. That's step 3. Log your negative tendencies. Keep a Hansei log. Just a simple notebook will do to record specific inadequacies. By doing so, you'll start to identify patterns. Is it a certain time of day? Specific people? Recurring events? This log isn't for punishment. It's important to remember that. It's to help you recognize and prepare for future recidivism so you can break the cycle.
Okay, makes sense. And finally, step 4, make a commitment to be better. Just seeing the pattern isn't enough.
Exactly. Merely recognizing your mistakes isn't enough. Correcting them is the real challenge. After evaluating your mistakes, you need to devise strategies to prevent them from reoccurring. For example, if your phone distracts you, maybe leave it in another room when you study. If politics with a certain family member always leads to a fight, make a conscious rule to change the subject politely. Breaking habits is hard, no doubt. But as Alexander Pope said, to err is human. To forgive, divine.
Bruce Brownlee from Toyota emphasizes that Hansei is being honest about your own weaknesses, which is actually a sign of strength, and then committing to overcome them. The source then lays out 5 guiding principles for effective Hansei, which seem crucial for making this practice truly transformative.
Yes, they are. The first principle is to avoid self-justification, even if you're convinced that the problem is not your fault. This is so tough, because our ego always wants to blame others or bad luck. Hansei creates a temporary safe space for you to examine your role. It's about acknowledging your mistakes, accepting responsibility, halting bad habits, and implementing changes. If you do this sincerely, you might even find your animosity towards others lessens. It's like that biblical wisdom. First, take the log out of your own eye.
Principle 2, don't beat yourself up. This is important. While honesty is key, Hansei isn't about despair or self-flagellation.
Right. Your inner critic might want to lead you down a path of hopelessness, but Hansei's purpose is to improve your life, not to berate you. It's about honesty without unproductive animosity. Find the lesson, not the punishment.
Principle 3, accept that painful memories might resurface. Digging into past mistakes can unearth difficult emotions: anger, rage, sorrow.
Yeah, these are the language of your lower brain. Instead of ignoring them, the book suggests you pick up the phone and say, hello. Let them enter your consciousness, consider them, and then allow them to disperse like clouds. Painful memories are like weeds that need sunlight to burn out, not be buried deeper.
Principle 4, remain humble in success and failure. Charles Darwin noted, ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge, which sounds a lot like the Dunning-Kruger effect.
It does. Even if you're the best in your field, you must remain critical. The source quotes Toyota's production system guide, stating, even if a task is completed successfully, no problem is itself a problem. There's always room for improvement. Always.
And finally, principle 5, don't make the same mistake twice. This feels like the ultimate goal of Hansei.
It really is. Noteworthy goal achievement requires a hunger for self-development. Failures are learning opportunities. The real power of Hansei is to stop us from repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Everyone fails, but not everyone learns from it. As the proverb says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
So these 5 guiding principles truly give us the framework for brutally honest, yet incredibly constructive self-reflection. It's about turning every past misstep into a powerful springboard for the future. And with that kind of clarity about our past, we can then look forward to something even more powerful that fuels our drive, our true calling.
Exactly. And that brings us to our third powerful concept. Ikigai, your true calling. This is such a beautiful idea, really.
It really is. Ikigai. Can you break down the word again?
Sure. It's a Japanese term combining iki meaning life or alive and kai meaning benefit or effect. So literally that which brings benefit to life. But its interpretations go much deeper. The thing that gives your life meaning, your true calling, your labor of love, or simply your passion. It's akin to the French raison d'être or joie de vivre.
My favorite colloquial translation, and one the book emphasizes, is my reason to get out of bed in the morning. It just clicks, doesn't it? This really captures Ikigai as a primary source of intrinsic motivation. It poses a powerful question to you, the listener. Do you rise from bed with gusto, eager to take on new projects? Or do you close your eyes in sorrow sickened by the thought of spending yet another day at the office?
It's a potent question. The history of Ikigai is quite interesting, too. Its origins trace back to Japan's 8th century Nara period. While not commonly used by most Japanese citizens today, it's vital on Okinawa Island, which has been labeled a blue zone, meaning its inhabitants live much longer than average. Theories for their longevity include diet and genetics, but many point to their mindset, which is deeply linked to their Ikigai. Dan Buettner's 2010 TED Talk, How to Live to be 100, highlighted this, noting Okinawans have no word for retirement. Their Ikigai imbues their entire life. He interviewed centenarians who instantly knew their reason to wake up.
That's amazing. So how do we find our Ikigai? The book suggests it can choose you, or you can choose it, and sometimes it takes years. The key is vigilance, persistently scanning the horizon, ever ready to sample new curiosities.
Right. And the book breaks Ikigai down into 4 guiding questions, often represented in a Venn diagram format, acting as a kind of worksheet exercise. First, passion. Could this be my passion? How much do I love this skill? Second, vocation. Could this be my vocation? How good am I or could be at this skill? Third, mission. Could this be my mission? How much will this skill benefit the world? And fourth, profession. Could this be my profession? How likely am I to get paid well for this skill?
Okay, so the exercise involves thinking of skills or occupations, assigning a number from 1 to 10 for each of these 4 questions, and then summing the results. The highest score might be your Ikigai. The source stresses that your answers will evolve through the years. You need to keep revisiting them. Like you might love playing video games and be good at them, maybe a 10 for passion and 8 for vocation, but the mission score might be low. And the profession score, well, the likelihood of getting paid well as a pro gamer is slim for most people.
Exactly. So maybe video game developer is a more sensible profession. It still leverages that passion and skill, but potentially scores higher on mission, creating joy for others, and profession, stable income. It encompasses diverse talents too, artists, designers, marketers, and this leads to a crucial warning. Be wary of a misaligned Ikigai. Honesty is pivotal here. The American Idol analogy is perfect. Most contestants fail because they only answer, what do you love to do? That's just passion. They ignore vocation. Are they actually good enough? Mission, does the world need another average singer? And profession, will anyone pay? They've selected their Ikigai poorly.
You see people who are passionate about singing, but they're just not good enough. And the world won't pay for mediocrity. It happens all the time. This really highlights the problem with pursuing only one ingredient. If you only have passion and profession, you might be well paid but feel meaningless. Vocation and profession might pay well but be torturous if you have no interest. And mission plus passion might be meaningful, but you're perpetually stumbling if you're not good at it.
The recommendation is clear. Pursue an Ikigai with all 4 ingredients. This requires deep self-awareness of your strengths and weaknesses. Hansei helps here too. For those new to the workforce, sample many jobs, gigs, and internships, not just for money, but to learn what you're truly best suited for. Continuously ping your internal mental state with those 4 questions.
And finding that sweet spot, that Ikigai, brings us to one of the biggest enemies of goals.
Procrastination. How can your Ikigai help you defeat it?
Right. Procrastination at its core is inaction, the opposite of the action required to achieve goals. It's often rooted in apathy, sloth, despair, or fatigue. The book illustrates this with that familiar narrative. William, the college student, intends to study for a biology exam after class.
Yes, William. The procrastination timer begins as soon as he gets home. We've all seen this cascade of distractions and mood shifts, Frosted Flakes and SpongeBob, then YouTube videos. Nobody can watch just one, the book says, noisy neighbors, and the creeping fatigue. His willpower just evaporates. It's a phenomenon called dynamic inconsistency. It's that frustrating feeling where your past self promised to do something today, but your present self just can't bring themselves to do it. William's mindset shifts from the conscientious student on the bus to a gadabout, longing for pizza, beer, and video games. His conscious mind knows what he should be doing, but his lower mind fidgets, stares, and dreams of other things. He's procrastinating.
Dr. Piers Steele of the University of Calgary defines procrastination as to voluntarily delay an intended course of action, despite expecting to be worse off for the delay. This is key. Procrastinators know what they should do, believe it's the better choice, and are keenly aware they're hurting themselves. It's not ignorance.
Exactly. And it's not just a time management issue. They have the time. They're just not using it productively. Ironically, a looming deadline is often the most effective way to break a procrastination spell. The source identifies 4 triggers for procrastination: distraction, general mental fatigue, anxiety about the labor, failure, success, change, and negative emotional associations with the task itself.
Okay, so for the first three, distraction, fatigue, and anxiety, there are plenty of common solutions. The time management hacks we often read about. Things like tackling difficult tasks in the morning when your mind is fresh, getting 8 hours of sleep, eating well, using an hourly calendar, the Pomodoro method, silencing your cell phone, maybe even using one of those lock boxes, or using software to limit distracting websites. Our expert uses many of these himself, right?
Yes, I use several of those personally, and they are highly effective for managing external stimuli and conserving mental energy. But they often don't address the fourth trigger, negative emotional associations with the task. Even with all the hacks in place, you might still just don't feel like working. This is when the perceived value of the labor comes into question.
And this is where the thought experiments with William the college student really drive the point home. In the first scenario, a mentor figure tells William he's destined to be a great microbiologist who saves millions of lives, and it all hinges on tomorrow's biology exam. Suddenly, William easily pushes past temptations and finds the willpower to study. Why? Because a valuable reward, fame, success, benefiting humanity, is attached, making the labor's value readily conjured.
But in the second experiment, William learns there's a high chance he'll change majors, making the biology credits worthless. Suddenly, William's reservations multiply and he procrastinates. Why? The perceived value of the task was far less certain. In real life, we often face this uncertainty. We don't know if the information we're learning will be useful or if a new venture will pay off, so we defer. The more uncertain we are of the potential benefit of a task, the easier it is for the lower mind to concoct reasons to avoid doing it. Procrastination is, in essence, your brain telling you it doesn't see immediate value in the effort.
This reminds me of Dostoevsky's observations from his time in a Siberian prison. He noted that hard labor wasn't necessarily physically hard. The truly torturous work was meaningless, like endlessly pouring water between vessels, only to move it back again. He concluded prisoners would strangle himself rather than endure such torments.
His epiphany was that work is far easier when it's meaningful to ourselves as well as to the community. And this, the source argues, is precisely where Ikigai steps in as the antidote to procrastination.
So discovering your Ikigai, finding that meaningful occupation that results in genuine value, is crucial. It brings us back to the multidimensional Ikigai with all four criteria: passion, vocation, mission, and profession.
Because, as the Yale anthropologist David Graeber explains in his book, Bullshit Jobs, most Westerners are blinkered by solely pursuing money. A bullshit job is completely pointless, unnecessary, or pernicious, providing no value to the world beyond a salary. This is different from a shit job like a janitor, which might be unpleasant but is vital. Nothing will incite you to procrastinate more than the realization that the work is utterly pointless.
The professional gambler example from Arnold Snyder's A Black Belt in Blackjack really illuminates this. Card counters make good money, but they often don't last because they're siphoning money from a meaningless cash flow system, acting as financial parasites. They produce nothing of value. Humans need to feel important, not mere cogs in a machine, a deeply existential need that goes beyond mere compensation.
And this ties into Dan O'Reilly's curious findings on motivation. For purely mechanical tasks, higher pay equals better performance. Simple enough. But T, for tasks requiring even rudimentary cognitive skill, larger rewards actually led to poorer performance. This is, as the book notes, strange. Daniel Pink's work in Drive identifies three much more powerful motivators for conceptual, creative work: autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Right. Autonomy is our desire for a self-directed life and freedom of choice. Mastery is that inner urge to become an expert, to get better at stuff. And purpose is the desire for beneficial and meaningful activities for ourselves, our family, and our community.
This intrinsic motivation cocktail is described as the potion we need to defeat procrastination. It unlocks grit. You won't need an angry boss or a looming deadline. You'll genuinely want to do the work. As Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi states, it is when we act freely for the sake of the action itself that we learn to become more than what we were.
But finding your Ikigai isn't a guarantee of a paradise, is it? The book makes that clear. There will still be good and bad days. Mastery, as the source points out, is grueling. Mark C. Danielewski reminds us that the root of passion means to suffer. Creative output requires long hours of intense labor. Dorothy Parker famously said, "I hate writing, but I love having written."
Exactly. Ikigais are quests, not hobbies. Stephen Pressfield, in The War of Art, contrasts the amateur who is a weekend warrior with the pro who shows up 7 days a week. Productive effort is a war against yourself, fought daily. So the call to action for you, the listener, is clear. What is your righteous cause? What is your reason to get out of bed in the morning?
And just like the sirens in Greek mythology lured Ulysses' sailors with enchanting music, our emotions, doubt, fatigue, boredom, despair will forever be lurking, trying to convince us to abandon our goals. To resist, you must sail with purpose and seek out an Ikigai that is true and righteous. This is the resolve you need to resist those seductive songs.
This intrinsic drive, born from a meaningful Ikigai, forms the bedrock upon which the next highly practical concept builds: continuous improvement.
And that leads us to our next core concept, Kaizen, or continuous improvement. Many of us, when we set a big goal like I want to lose 80 pounds by New Year's Eve or I want to be a millionaire, we immediately adopt a Herculean effort regimen, total overhaul. But then most of us quit quickly, sometimes in just a few days or even hours. Why does this happen so often?
It's because vocalizing a grand vow is easy when you're comfortable sitting on the couch. But as the process gets underway and inevitable discomforts like fatigue, hunger, boredom, and anxiety creep in, tenacity wanes. Suddenly that commitment feels overwhelming. That biology textbook starts to look like the riddle of the Sphinx, the treadmill a torture device, and that leftover pastry suddenly seems like a delicacy sent from heaven. Even the most determined among us often fail to maintain such intense willpower for long. A 2007 study showed that a staggering 88% of New Year's resolutions fail within months.
88%, that's huge. So Kaizen offers a different approach. The goal-setting mentality shifts, doesn't it?
It does. Instead of massive, intimidating objectives, it focuses on readily achievable ones and then prompts us to expand upon our performance daily. The term itself, Kaizen, comes from Kai, meaning change, and Zen, meaning good or improve. So it's change for the good or continuous improvement.
Okay. So how would you define Kaizen in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, Kaizen is a goal achievement technique that encourages continuous improvement via daily incremental progress. It breaks big obstacles into manageable components to be overcome via continuous, gradual, and consistent daily exertion. Small steps, big results over time.
And his history is quite fascinating, actually. While we associate it with Japanese manufacturing, Kaizen principles partially originated in America during World War II with something called training within industry.
That's right, TWI. This focused on making small, daily alterations for efficiency with minimal downtime. After the war, American occupation forces brought these ideas to Japan as part of the Marshall Plan. Dr. William Edwards Deming, an influential American statistician, was instrumental, making numerous consulting trips to Japan. His work underpins things like total quality management and lean manufacturing, and was so vital to Japan's recovery that the Union of Japanese Scientists and Engineers named the prestigious Deming Prize after him. Later, Masaki Imai, with his book Kaizen, The Key to Japan's Competitive Success, really brought Kaizen into the mainstream consciousness globally.
And the beauty is, because of the stellar success of Japanese industry, Kaizen easily leaped from the factory floor into personal lives. These techniques are transferable, meaning they can be applied to almost any pursuit, right?
Absolutely. The book condenses the methodology into 6 fundamental principles for personal application.
What's the first one? This seems like the starting point.
The first crucial principle: start working toward your goal immediately, even if your first action is laughably small. This is foundational. We ask ourselves that core question, adapted from Deming. What small step could I take today which may, in the long run, improve my situation? The aim is twofold. First, to atomize the challenge, identify the easiest parts to tackle. Second, to build psychological momentum. Your lower mind needs to believe it can achieve small goals before it will commit to loftier ones.
Laughably small. I like that. The examples are great. Writing just one paragraph of a novel, cleaning the garage for 5 minutes, or jogging on the treadmill for literally 1 minute. Initially, they won't amount to much, but the objective is simply to overcome getting started. Robert Moore, author of One Small Step Can Change Your Life, explains that small steps rewire your nervous system, they unstuck creative blocks, bypass fight or flight, and create new neural connections so your brain enthusiastically takes over.
Exactly. It's about coaxing the mind with tiny victories. Think of Jordan Peterson's famous advice to clean your room. It's a perfect micro-goal example. And the powerful anecdote of Joe Simpson, the mountaineer in Touching the Void, illustrates this perfectly under extreme conditions. After breaking his leg and losing his partner in a snowstorm, alone, facing death, he kept motivated by setting definite targets, just getting to the next crevasse in 20 minutes. Obsessive focus on these mini deadlines, not the overwhelming enormity of the challenge, saved his life. This is Kaizen in action, breaking down the problem and focusing on the immediate next step. As Lao Tzu says, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Kaizen makes you focus on that step.
Okay, that's powerful. What's the second principle?
The second principle is to use a continuous improvement process, CIP. This is derived from the Shahart cycle or Deming wheel, an iterative problem-solving process. The version presented for personal use is OPDCA. Observe, plan, do, check, adjust.
OPDCA. Okay, break that down.
Right. In Observe, you identify problem areas, whether it's a factory workflow, your weight loss efforts, or chronic tardiness. As Sherlock Holmes noted, you see but you do not observe. It requires honest self-critique, linking back to Hansei. Then you plan a strategy, keeping alterations small so failure isn't costly, but a learning opportunity. Next, you do by executing the plan and collecting data, even if it's just counting calories or logging study hours. Simple data. In the check phase, you analyze that data, evaluating any deviation from your anticipated results. Did you aim for 2 hours of study but only manage 15 minutes? Why? And finally, you adjust by formulating a hypothesis for the root cause and suggesting changes for the next cycle. Then you return to observe, and the process repeats indefinitely. It's continuous, the wheels of improvement never stop spinning.
The third principle is about how we view setbacks. Interpret success and failure correctly. This seems key.
It is. In traditional goal setting, one failure often spells dramatic demise. I ate that cake. My diet is over. Done. Finished. But Kaizen sees no failure in the OPDCA cycle. You stick to the process indefinitely. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." A setback is merely a data point for the next adjust phase.
And success is viewed differently too, not just reaching a goal.
Exactly. In Kaizen, there's no good enough. You're never set in your ways. The adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is antithetical to Kaizen. You're constantly vigilant to rectify little inefficiencies. The goal is to continually progress, even through inevitable peaks and valleys. We can't always predict if things will get worse or better, but the commitment is simply to keep progressing forward. That commitment ensures continuous improvement is the inevitable outcome.
Principle 4. Use the 5 whys technique to identify a problem's root cause. That sounds familiar.
Yes, it was developed by Toyota founder Sakichi Toyoda. It involves asking why a series of times to dig into the deepest cause of a problem. The example given is a student who was late for class. Why? Missed the bus. Why? Wasn't at the stop on time. Why? Didn't leave home early enough. Why? Stayed in bed too long. That gets to a deeper, more actionable reason than just missed the bus.
It forces you past the superficial symptoms.
Precisely. And like Hansei, it works best with honesty. It's invaluable for troubleshooting any problem in your life.
Principle 5. Your actions should be daily, not weekly. This makes sense intuitively for habit building.
It does. This is epitomized by Jerry Seinfeld's joke writing trick. Get a big wall calendar, and for every day you write, put a big red X. Don't break the chain. The psychological power here is immense. It relies on incremental daily progress without interruption. While it seems easy, the trivialities of life can prevent even simple daily goals. But paradoxically, a task often seems easier if you do it daily rather than sporadically due to habit formation. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, states, "Mastery follows consistency. Daily action builds that consistency."
And finally, principle 6. Measure your results ritualistically. Back to data.
Yes, data collection is crucial for Kaizen, just like on a factory floor. But for personal use, keep it simple. Track your body weight, calorie counts, practice hours, running speed, words written, or just Seinfeld's X on the calendar. The logging methods don't need to be fancy. The utility is that it keeps the task persistent in your mind. It provides negative emotions for missed goals and pride for fulfillment. And crucially, it ensures honesty, countering our brain's tendency to fudge the numbers. As Deming famously said, "In God we trust, all others must bring data."
All these principles offer a robust, adaptable framework. The book even mentions Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's formless form of martial arts, to describe Kaizen. What's that connection?
It highlights the flexibility. There's no single definitive source or rigid set of rules for personal Kaizen. You're free to select the techniques best suited for your lifestyle and goals, incorporating them gradually. Bruce Lee said, "Don't get set into one form. Instead, adapt it, build your own, and let it grow." Kaizen is like that.
Personalized, continuous improvement. I like that.
It's a personalized path, continuously adapting and growing with you, mirroring the very essence of what you're trying to achieve in your life.
Okay, so we've learned the core principles of Kaizen, but how do you actually take that very first step? It can still feel daunting. The book circles back to that foundational question. What small step could I take today which may, in the long run, improve my situation? This focuses attention on proximate steps, preventing intimidation.
Yes, exactly. And beyond that, the source offers 4 additional inquiries to help you get into the right mindset before you even take that step. The first question is, what is holding you back? Often, the most difficult part of goal attainment isn't changing yourself, but changing your environment.
That's so true. Are your neighbors noisy? Are you spending too much time at the bar? Are you stuck in a one-horse town? Or maybe just playing too many video games? These annoyances, while seemingly inconsequential individually, have a cumulative detrimental effect. And it can even be personal obstacles, right? Like financial obligations or family members clipping your wings, parents plotting your career, a grandma constantly giving you cookies despite your weight struggles, or siblings laughing at your attempts to study. The source uses the Kraken metaphor to describe this, the mythical giant squid. It represents the dead weight of goal destroyers lurking around us, trying to pull us down to their level. You must remain vigilant, constantly on the lookout for these influences, both external and internal. Okay, vigilance noted. The second question, are you motivated enough to start building good habits today? This delves into the limitations of the human mind again.
Yeah, our lower mind excels at immediate pros and cons. If I walk to the kitchen, I can eat a cookie. Simple calculation. But it struggles with complex, long-term goals where the payoff isn't conspicuous or immediate. It's hard to truly envision how small daily habits could possibly result in substantial future gains 10 years down the line.
The future TV thought experiment illustrates this beautifully. Imagine a TV that could show you your future physique after 10 years of workouts, or the health effects of smoking, or your cello playing at age 30. That would be incredibly motivating.
It would be a powerful motivating force. But since it doesn't exist and our natural planning horizon is short, Kaizen starts with tiny and immediate steps. Each mile traversed is a little victory. Accumulating these trophies allows the mind to acclimate to the process, gradually tolerating longer planning horizons and delayed gratification.
The third question, what challenging obstacles have you already overcome in your life? This feels like a good counterbalance to Hansei's self-criticism.
It is. While Hansei encourages self-criticism, it's also vital to acknowledge past victories. Keeping a triumph log of overcome challenges is invaluable when motivation wanes or impediments seem insurmountable. It's easy to stand awestruck at the difficult trial that lies before you, but it's even easier to forget the many defeated obstacles that lie toppled behind you. We often forget how far we've actually come and what we're capable of.
That's a great reminder. And the fourth question, how would you define an ideal workday? This isn't about external success, right?
Correct. It's not a successful day based on external factors like stock prices or promotions, which are subject to the whims of fortune. Instead, an ideal workday is one in which you complete all of the objectives that are under your control. Examples of failures under your control include stopping your workflow for emails, checking stocks, chatting, texting your girlfriend instead of studying, or watching Netflix instead of going to the gym, things you could have controlled. The reality is that even most enlightened among us will fail constantly at achieving this ideal. But Kaizen's approach is to begin each workday with the intent to complete those controllable tasks, then measure how much your actual day varied from your ideal day. The aim is to keep that error rate as low as possible.
Okay, that clarifies the starting mindset. Now, moving on, new Kaizen students often voice 2 main objections to this seemingly simple philosophy. The first is, little actions can't possibly add up to much, can they? It feels counterintuitive.
It does, and this highlights a common cognitive limitation. There's a self-help dictum that says, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. It's difficult for the mind to extrapolate how tiny daily actions can lead to massive gains over a decade. When people hear laughably small initial tasks, they think it's futile for a large goal like writing a novel or getting fit.
And the source identifies 2 misunderstandings here. What are they?
First, Kaizen doesn't stay small. The initial smallness is just to build psychological momentum and get you started. But as days progress, you naturally add increasingly more laborious tasks. The 1 minute becomes 5, then 10, then 30. Second, it massively underestimates the power of consistency. Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built by tenacity to show up to work every day for generations, laying a million little bricks. Moving 1 brick isn't impressive, but repeating it a million times builds an empire.
The Stephen King analogy perfectly illustrates this. Typing 2,000 words a day about 3 pages seems unimpressive on its own. Like, who cares? But this is Stephen King's daily output. He has, 61 novels, 5 nonfiction books, and 200 short stories to his name. If you look at the word counts of his famous novels like Christine or The Shining, and then realize that just 3 pages a day for 50 years adds up to his entire library, that's absolutely mind-blowing.
It truly is. It reveals that many opportunities are abandoned not because the task is inherently too hard, but because of a lack of tenacity to keep at it each day. It validates Kaizen's relentless emphasis on daily progress, however small it starts.
Okay, point taken. The second objection is, with Kaizen, I only have to do the absolute minimum amount of work each day.
Yeah.
Kind of gaming the system.
Yeah, trying to find the loophole. But this view, the source immediately counters, negates the very purpose of Kaizen's existence. The goal is continual improvement, not continual homeostasis. It's not just about showing up or putting in your hours. At each threshold of development, the effort required for further improvement will actually increase. You have to push a bit harder to keep improving.
This brings up Anders Ericsson's 10,000-hour rule, popularized by Malcolm Gladwell, suggesting mastery comes after 10,000 hours of practice. But the source points out a problem with that.
Yes, the problem is that nobody can agree on the amount of effort required to constitute a single hour of practice. Not all practice is equal. Erickson distinguishes between naive practice and deliberate practice. Naive practice is just showing up, maybe going through the motions, leading to minimal learning, and no skill progression without challenge. You plateau. Deliberate practice, however, forces you out of his comfort zone to display mastery never achieved before, like a violinist tackling complicated music or an athlete raising the hurdles. Your mind is called upon to do something it has never done before. This is where real growth happens.
So Kaizen's aim isn't minimum effort. It's deliberate practice aimed at extraordinary performance over time. Complacency is the archenemy of Kaizen, as Masaki Imai put it.
Exactly. We practice Kaizen because we appreciate how very short our time on this planet is. Time is ticking. Many windows of opportunity are open now, but more and more windows will slide shut as we age. This emphasis on focused, purposeful effort is echoed by Greg McHugh in Essentialism. Productivity isn't about doing more things, but how to get the right things done. It's about making the wisest possible investment of your time and energy in order to operate at your highest point of contribution. Kaizen helps us to truly focus on what matters most.
Now let's explore Kaizen's application beyond personal self-improvement, starting with something critical to all our lives: wealth and our work.
Right. This section begins by honoring Dr. William Edwards Deming, the American engineer, statistician, and management consultant we mentioned earlier. Yale PhD, focused on statistical methods for industrial production and quality control.
His impact was truly global, especially in post-WWII Japan. Invited there in 1950, he lectured on quality improvement, and his work was so vital that the Union of Japanese Scientists and Engineers named the prestigious Deming Prize after him. It took a while for his ideas to really catch on back in the U.S., though.
True, mostly in the 80s. The source then synthesizes Deming's pivotal ideas, along with contributions from other researchers, into powerful principles for applying Kaizen in your workplace or financial endeavors.
What's the first big takeaway for applying Kaizen in your work or finances?
It's about fostering a continuous improvement mindset among yourself and, if applicable, your workforce. Deming's original question for Toyota employees was, what small step could I take today which may, in the long run, improve the process or product? This daily ritual focuses the mind on continuous improvement, deters complacency, and primes the mind to spot those big ideas when they arise from small observations.
Okay, continuous improvement mindset. What else?
Another crucial principle is to consider making a little bet on a potentially big idea. The workplace should be seen as an incubator for new ideas. Management consultant Peter Sims talks about how profitable outcomes often stem from these low-risk ventures, where small amounts of time and resources are wagered on crafting solutions. Most will fail, but the rewards from the winners can be grand. Google's famous 20% time for pet projects is a prime example. Most were a net drain, but Gmail, Google Maps, AdSense originated from them. Most moonshots fail to hit the moon, after all.
So Kaizen mitigates the risk.
Exactly. Kaizen mitigates losses by breaking large projects into little bets. You fail quickly and cheaply, investing less emotion and time in bad ideas. This aligns with the Pareto principle. The 80-20 rule, maybe 80% of your success comes from 20% of your efforts or ideas. Business success is uncertain, and Kaizen helps curtail losses by making initial steps small and adaptable.
A third incredibly powerful principle mentioned is to foster pride of workmanship. How does that fit in?
This connects deeply to that intrinsic motivation cocktail we discussed: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Deming called the synergistic benefit pride of workmanship. He critiqued metrics that measured engineers solely by number of designs, arguing it deprived them of pride, as they dare not take time to study and amend. Employee worth is more than a single data point. Pride in work, Deming noted, means more to people than perks like gymnasiums, tennis courts, and recreation areas. People need careers that offer ever-broadening opportunities to add something to society.
So leaders need to connect the work to a larger purpose.
Yes. Good leaders constantly remind teams of their raison d'etre, showing how their output affects others down the chain. Like Steve Jobs having the signatures of the original Mac team branded inside the first Apple Macs, a powerful gesture of pride and ownership. It's vital to celebrate contributions because, as David Deida wrote, every moment of your life is either a test or a celebration. Ultimately, as Nobel laureate Edmund Phelps stated, most, if not all, of the attainable self-realization in modern societies can come only from career.
What about Deming's famous principle to drive out fear?
Crucial in the workplace, Deming found production problems often stemmed from line workers being too afraid to voice their concerns to upper management. Fear stifles feedback and improvement. Secure means without fear. Employees need to feel safe expressing ideas, asking questions, pointing out problems without fear of retribution. Leaders must be approachable, break down departmental barriers. Research needs to understand production. Production needs to understand design. Machiavelli even said, "There is no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you."
Okay, fear holds back improvement. What about waste? Kaizen is famous for fighting waste.
Absolutely. Taiichi Ohno, the father of the Toyota production system, codified the 7 mudas, or 7 types of wastefulness. These are wasteful motion, inefficient workstation setup, wasteful transportation, unnecessary movement of product, wasteful waiting, products sitting idle, wasteful overproduction, making more than needed, wasteful overprocessing, features customers don't value, wasteful inventory, unsold and used product, and wasteful defects, too many faulty items. Even in an office setting or small business, waste manifests as employee downtime, waiting for information, inefficient processes. Teams need to be encouraged to spot and report these workflow discrepancies.
That makes sense. Another principle is about focus. Identify your most crucial objectives.
Yes, avoiding the busy idiot trap. Entrepreneurs, and really all of us, often procrastinate by doing easier, less mentally challenging tasks instead of the real work that actually moves the needle. We bask in a milieu of frenzied action for transient psychological relief, but aren't making progress on what matters. Energy management is key. Your brain has limited energy. Front-load the most tedious, important tasks in the morning when your mind is fresh. Push inconsequential tasks like email, voicemail, tidying, checking stocks to the end of the day. The needle of success is typically advanced by core functions like product creation, sales, and marketing. You likely know which activities yield greater financial rewards. The challenge is to check off your 3 most essential tasks each morning before anything else.
That focus requires saying no, doesn't it?
It does. Principle 7. Focus means learning to say no a lot. Warren Buffett famously said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." Distractions and apparent opportunities lurk behind every bend, trying to lure you from your primary objectives. Successful businesses and individuals are often highly specialized. Less is more. Steve Jobs returning to Apple in 1998 is a classic example. He cut products from 350 down to 10. He told Nike CEO, "Focus means saying no to the 100 other good ideas. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Be proud of what you haven't done."
And the final principle connects to luck and persistence. Be prepared for your chance meeting with fortune.
Right. The media loves rags to riches stories, but they're often watercolor abstractions. They don't show the millions of mundane problems, the anxiety, the near bankruptcies. Real-world success is seldom a graceful story arc or a single eureka moment. It's usually years of mistakes and blind stumblings. Jim Collins, in Good to Great, found that managers of exceptional companies couldn't pinpoint a single inflection point. It was more evolutionary, like pushing a giant flywheel, building success upon success. Collins concluded there was no miracle moment, a quiet, deliberate process. Pushing on that flywheel in a consistent direction over an extended period of time, they'd inevitably hit a point of breakthrough. Kaizen emphasizes that consistent daily ritual.
So luck is part of it, but you have to be ready.
Exactly. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, but luck is elusive. Most don't recognize it when it arrives. Fortunes are often built on initially mundane realizations that others overlooked. Think of Alexander Graham Bell initially seeing the telephone as a device for the deaf, or Bill Gates starting with traffic monitoring switches, or Larry Page trying to sell the Google algorithm for $1 million. It's hard to calculate more than 1 or 2 moves ahead. Kaizen's promise is to commit to the daily grind itself. You cannot know which turn of the flywheel will be the breakthrough, but fortune is more likely to come to the man who keeps pushing.
It's like the drunkard's walk idea. The path is unpredictable.
Precisely. Physicist Leonard Mlodinow writes about how cognitive biases make it impossible to predict the future and easy to misinterpret the past. The path to success is comparably serpentine, like a drunkard's walk, full of opportunities and setbacks. We sometimes can never know which move was the right move. It relates to Alfred Korzybski's "The map is not the territory." Our plans are just maps. Reality is the complex territory. Strategy emerges as intentions collide with changing reality, as Henry Mintzberg said. Businesses need to be agile. Mlodinow's conclusion is key. Keep marching forward. One important factor in success is under our control. The number of at-bats, the number of chances taken, the number of opportunities seized. For even a coin weighted toward failure will sometimes land on success. Keep taking those small steps.
Powerful stuff. Now let's turn our attention to Kaizen's application in perhaps the most personal domain.
Right. And the source begins by highlighting the common pitfalls of conventional weight loss, using the reality show, The Biggest Loser, as a stark case study. Contestants achieve these amazing rapid body transformations and win prizes. But research shows the majority regain the lost weight. Why? Because their metabolisms intensify efforts to return to their original weight set point. Almost every contestant becomes big again.
That's a pretty sobering statistic, isn't it? It almost feels like our bodies are actively working against us when we try to make big, rapid changes.
It certainly feels that way sometimes. And that's precisely why Kaizen steps in here as a more sustainable approach. This TV show exemplifies the inadequacy of conventional, often drastic, goal setting, especially for weight loss. Goals tied to transient external motivations, like looking good for a wedding, often result in transient success. Once the external driver is gone, failure often follows. Remember that study on New Year's resolutions? 88% fail. But that same study found that setting weekly goals, like aiming to lose 5 pounds per month, had a 22% higher success rate than setting single, long-term, often overwhelming goals. This highlights the power of incrementalism. A fit lifestyle requires a lifetime of daily commitments.
Okay, so how do we apply Kaizen specifically to weight loss and nutrition? What are the practical tips?
First tip. Make a list of all the unhealthy foods you consume each day. You likely already know which foods are generally unhealthy: microwave pizza, chips, soda. The challenge is curtailing consumption of these ultra-processed foods. The source lists common culprits: potato chips, candy, cakes, cookies, donuts, ice cream, french fries, hot dogs, instant noodles, sugary soft drinks. The goal isn't perfection, but awareness and reduction. As Peter Drucker famously said, what gets measured gets managed. Keep a simple log, no fancy app needed, just a piece of paper, list the problematic food groups, put a check mark each time you consume one, count them up weekly. The goal, reduce the number of check marks over time. You can also track healthy food consumption similarly. It's about monitoring and minimizing, not aiming for a perfect record immediately.
Makes sense. What's the second tip?
Tip 2 is to front load your calories. This is based on the old Adele Davis maxim: eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Modern urbanite habits often do the opposite: rushing breakfast, grabbing junk food on the commute, and then having large dinners late in the evening, often in front of the TV. This pattern likely contributes to obesity.
Is there research to back this up?
Yes. Studies indicate the hour of the day when meals are consumed impacts weight gain, even if total calories are the same. Front-loading calories may help manage weight. A 2013 study from Tel Aviv University followed 93 obese women on the same low-calorie diet but varied meal timing. The big breakfast group, 700 calories breakfast, 200 calories dinner, lost significantly more weight, about 11 more pounds, and had better metabolic markers than the big dinner group, 200 breakfast, 700 dinner. Another study in 2014 found similar results. The physician advice quoted is, if you want to lose weight, eat more in the morning than in the evening. Of course, the caveat is you still need to choose healthy meals regardless of timing.
Okay, front load calories. Third tip.
Third, reduce the amount of time you spend sitting. Physical fitness is a persistent daily lifestyle habit, not just occasional bursts of gym time. Our modern lives are incredibly sedentary: car commutes, escalators, elevators, 8 hours in a desk chair.
So small changes throughout the day.
Exactly. Small lifestyle alterations can make a big difference cumulatively. Stand up more often. During phone calls, while waiting for things, maybe reading emails standing up during meetings, even eating lunch standing. Consider a stand-up desk, if feasible. Park farther away. At work, the grocery store, the mall, consciously choose a spot farther out to burn a few extra calories. Walk or bike for short errands if possible. Avoid elevators. Take the stairs whenever practical. Incrementally add more flights over time. Choose active hobbies. Things like tennis, soccer, hiking, dancing, gardening. Find activities you enjoy so the exertion doesn't feel grueling.
Fourth tip involves psychology. Use psychology to curtail hunger.
Yes, Kaizen works with human psychology. Satiation is complex. First, do not store unhealthy snacks in your proximity. The easiest way to prevent snacking on junk food is to make it inaccessible. Don't buy family-sized bags of chips if you live alone. Buy single-serving portions, consume immediately, or store them out of sight. Creates a buffer. As Brian Wansink's candy dish experiments showed, out of sight, out of mind works. Second, drink more water. The brain sometimes has trouble differentiating between a stomach full of food and a stomach full of water. Drinking a full glass, around 350 milliliter or 12 ounces, before meals can induce a feeling of satiety. Third, mind the lag. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to register fullness signals from your stomach. If you're eyeing a second slice of cake right after finishing the first, remove it from sight and make a deal with yourself. If you're still genuinely hungry in 20 minutes, you can have it. Often, its appeal will fade. Fourth, ritualize saving restaurant food. Americans eat out a lot, and portion sizes are often huge, 3 to 8 times standard serving sizes. It's hard to waste food you paid for. Make it a habit. Automatically stow a portion of your meal for later before you start eating. Carry Tupperware. Ask for smaller portions if possible.
These are really practical. And the fifth tip loops back again.
To measurement. Measure your progress ritualistically. This is crucial for weight loss accountability. Typical methods include weekly weigh-ins and maybe daily calorie counts. But you can track other metrics too. BMI, waist circumference, estimated body fat, using calipers, smart scales, or more advanced methods, or even just taking monthly body photos for visual comparison. The source acknowledges these methods can be error-prone, but they're useful as long as they are directionally correct and show trends over time. Seeing that jittery but ever-declining line on your progress chart will motivate you. Once again, what gets measured gets managed.
Okay, that covers nutrition and general activity. What about specific physical fitness, like strength training?
Right. Part 2 is physical fitness with Kaizen. The problem with conventional strength training, as the source sees it, is that it requires a long-term daily commitment that few people manage to maintain. You get that initial inspiration maybe from seeing toned models, athletes, or muscular Marvel superheroes like Jason Momoa and Aquaman. This often leads to spontaneous gym memberships, but the reality of training quickly sets in. The euphoria dissipates. Hoisting iron can be boring, difficult, exhausting. Soon, those expensive gym cards are abandoned.
And the celebrity physiques aren't sustainable for normal people anyway.
Not at all. They require grueling hours of labor, often just for filming. Momoa himself admitted, "I don't like going to the gym, and I don't touch a weight unless they're paying me to do it." After filming, the pounds pile on. Kaizen's audience for fitness is, for the rest of us, people who simply seek to remain fit in perpetuity, adopting a lifetime of daily strength training goals, not a temporary transformation.
So what's this first, maybe counterintuitive tip here?
Tip #1, do not sign up for a gym membership.
Really, no gym.
For most people starting out, yes. Statistics are damning. A 2020 survey found 49% of members use the gym once a week or never. Americans waste an estimated $1.8 billion annually on unused memberships. Why the failure? Many familiar points of friction, remember the 7 mutas, like wasteful motion. Driving there, parking, checking in, changing in the locker room, feeling self-conscious under critical eyes. The journey to the gym can take up more time than the workout itself. Plus, the psychological barrier of getting to the gym is exhausting. Your lower mind summons a million excuses. Traffic, weather, a good show on TV, a date, just not wanting to get sweaty. It's hard for the brain to muster the willpower for all of life's other challenges, plus driving to a smelly building.
Okay, if not the gym, then what?
Tip #2. Build your own home gym. The alternative is simple, a few dumbbells in the corner of your apartment or house. This mitigates nearly all those impediments, but wait, there's a catch. We've all seen residential garages that are graveyards for petrified exercise equipment. Why does home equipment often go unused too? The book identifies 2 common home gym design mistakes.
What are they?
Mistake #1. Improperly selected gym environment. Placing equipment in the least desirable room, the cold garage, the dusty shed, the cluttered patio pushes your fitness commitments to the periphery of your mind. You have to consider temperature, smell, noise, space, maybe even having to move the car. The more obstacles, the less likely you'll be to use it. The solution. Equipment should be proximate to the rooms in your house where life happens. The kitchen, bedroom, home office, somewhere well-trekked, temperature-controlled. The example given is a Peloton bike in a home office. Integrate the workout into your daily flow. It should require no more willpower than starting the microwave. Mistake, #2. Improperly selected gym equipment. Avoid those as seen on TV contraptions or things that are foldable, portable, but cumbersome. Your lower brain resists expending precious calories, so any annoyance needing to extend, reposition, unscrew, or stow equipment will dissuade you. Low build quality, creaking, bending, wobbling, also kills motivation.
So what kind of equipment should you get?
Solution: keep it simple. A set of dumbbells and an adjustable bench are often all you need for effective full-body workouts. There are countless routines available online from reputable trainers. And remember the Kaizen start. Your initial goal is habit building, not strength training. Start with a single pair of dumbbells, maybe do just one set of curls, Monday through Friday. It takes less than a minute. This action is laughably small, but it's superior to doing nothing and builds that crucial psychological momentum.
Makes sense. Start tiny, make it convenient. What's next?
Tip #3. Track your daily fitness activity. Log your progress. Metrics can include poundage lifted, reps, sets, total tonnage, number of push-ups or sit-ups, miles pedaled, walked, jogged. Methods can be apps, charts, or a simple Excel spreadsheet, which the author uses. The utility isn't necessarily for revolutionary insights, but for the ritual itself and for gamification. Your fitness log becomes a trophy case. It provides pride and motivates you to keep the streak going. Again, what gets measured gets managed.
And the final fitness tip.
Tip #4. Gradually increase your workout intensity. This is core Kaizen. Fitness is a multi-decade endeavor. Build muscle steadily, avoid injury. Focus on form, not tonnage, especially early on. Use controlled movements. Avoid the ego trap of lifting heavy weights prematurely with bad form. Kaizen aims to stress the body enough to add muscle, not to rip and tear it. And again, this approach is not for crash dieters, fitness models, people seeking a beach body ready look in 6 weeks, or elite athletes. Those require extreme, often unsustainable commitments, like Michael Phelps' 5 hours of swimming and 10,000 calories daily. Kaizen fitness is slow and gradual. Remember the proverb, it does not matter how slowly you go so long as you do not stop. This prudent approach is ideal for building lifetime fitness habits, leading to being fit and healthy and strong for life.
That's a really sustainable vision for health. Now let's explore how Kaizen applies to perhaps the most intricate and human area of our lives, our relationships.
Yes, this is fascinating. The source opens with a case study from the 2005 film The Weatherman, featuring David Spritz, played by Nicolas Cage, and his estranged wife Noreen, arguing over forgotten tartar sauce. Does this discourse sound familiar? We all hear arguments like this, and we instinctively infer the underlying subtext. It's obviously not really about the tartar sauce. It's the symbolic final straw that broke the camel's back.
David commits what's called a reduction fallacy, doesn't he? He asks, what if I had remembered the tartar sauce? Would things be different? He ignores all the prior, deeper conflicts that led to that moment.
Exactly. Interpersonal problems rarely stem from a single isolated source. They're usually built up from day-to-day disagreements, amplified by deeper, dissonant undertones. This is where root cause analysis, used by engineers for complex failures like plane crashes, can be surprisingly helpful in relationships. Applying Sakichi Toyoda's 5 whys to David and Noreen might look something like this. Why were they fighting? Because David forgot sauce. Why? He was distracted. Why? Generally absent-minded lately. Why? Perhaps because his wife was always nagging him, his perception. Why? Because they have deeper communication problems and a lack of mutual respect. See how it drills down.
It forces you past the surface issue. Hansei plays a role here too, right?
Absolutely. Hansei forces the mind to dig deeper. It helps us consider multiple antecedents and overcome the natural tendency towards the blame game and fixation on proximate causes. It makes you more likely to see your spouse's perspective. It connects back directly to Lingchi. Big relationship problems are often a death by 1,000 cuts. Developing self-awareness of our own faults and contributions prevents little squabbles from turning into hostile conflicts. It helps stop the bleeding before it becomes critical.
Okay, that's the first principle, use root cause analysis and Hansei. What's the second?
Principle #2. Relationships call upon both parties to contribute 110%. This links back to Deming's idea to drive out fear. In relationships, a lack of open communication or feeling unvalued makes individuals put in minimal effort, just enough to get by, but not enough to thrive. This is detrimental. In The Weatherman, David assumes his financial contribution is enough justification for his absent-mindedness. Noreen, feeling disregarded, resorts to nagging. Result? Both feel slighted and disconnected.
So what's the 110% rule?
It's a mindset shift. Before interacting, especially if anticipating conflict, ask yourself how the interaction would go if you contributed more effort, empathy, or understanding than might seem reasonably expected. Go above and beyond. For Noreen, maybe 110% would be acknowledging David's tired brain after work, giving him a written note as a reminder, adding a kiss and a thank you for going out. For David, 110% might mean acknowledging Noreen's effort in planning dinner, actively writing down the instructions, and verbally confirming he understands to show respect. If either had applied this, the argument likely would have been avoided. Nurturing relationships means actively developing communication skills and consciously considering your partner's desires and perspective before your own immediate reactions or needs.
That requires real effort and awareness. What's the third principle for relationships?
Principle #3. Identify what triggers you. This goes back to that ancient wisdom. Know thyself. The most complex relationship we have is often with ourselves. We need to know our light and dark angels, as the source puts it. It requires self-awareness. Know your strengths and weaknesses, which stimuli help you excel, and which environments or topics tend to set you off. What irks your ire? What gets under your skin? Once you know your triggers, you can sometimes avoid destructive behavior by removing yourself from the situation before you react poorly. For example, use the back door to avoid snapping at coworkers after a stressful commute. Avoid stressful phone calls right when you get home to family. Eat something before having an important, potentially difficult conversation. The hangry effect is real.
That judge study is fascinating. They granted 65% more paroles right after lunch. Our physiological state really impacts our judgment.
It absolutely does. Knowing yourself means mind and body. Hansei helps here again. Journal every triggering interaction. Identify the people, places, topics involved. Quantify the stimuli and conditions. It's a lifelong pursuit to refine this awareness. This self-awareness also builds empathy. Relationship difficulties often stem from our inability to see the world through the other person's eyes, shaped by their own complex tapestry of memories and emotions. As Elbert Hubbard said, your friend is a man who knows all about you and still likes you. We need to learn to tolerate quirks in others and ourselves.
And the final principle seems related to acceptance. Understand that relationships require acceptance of things you cannot change.
Yes. Our ability to influence even our own life is limited, let alone the lives of others. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus emphasized distinguishing between what is and isn't within our control as the key to inner tranquility and outer effectiveness. This is perfectly captured in Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The reality is, most people won't spontaneously pursue personal development or accept unsolicited aid, especially once they're comfortable in their ways. Some situations, and sadly some relationships, cannot be salvaged, no matter how much we wish otherwise. Acceptance, and sometimes forgiveness, even if you feel it's undeserved, is often necessary. Letting sleeping dogs lie can be the correct course of action. Forgiveness, as Jonathan Lockwood Huey noted, primarily offers you peace.
These principles offer a really grounded, practical way to apply Kaizen to the messiness of human connection.
Exactly. They offer a path to not only mend damaged relationships, but also to actively cultivate stronger, more resilient, and more understanding connections over the long haul.
We've covered Lingchi, Hansei, Ikigai, and Kaizen as powerful frameworks for personal growth, wealth, health, and relationships. But what about the biggest question of all, Kaizen and the meaning of life itself? Where does this philosophy take us?
The big one. From childhood, we all ask those fundamental questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? These questions persist through every stage of life, often lurking beneath the surface, and our inability to find satisfying answers can be a source of much internal angst. We tend to envision an ideal version of ourselves if only we'd gotten those higher exam scores, taken that job in London, married our first love, stuck with tuba practice. We compare our current reality to this imagined ideal. Our current position, the source reminds us, is the result of a million little decisions, and our trajectory becomes increasingly difficult to alter as time goes on.
And that quote from Nicolas Cage's character in The Weatherman is hauntingly relatable. He laments how all the possibilities got reduced every year to fewer and fewer, until finally they got reduced to one to who I am. We all have that dashing doppelganger in our minds, don't we? That younger, stronger, healthier, happier, thinner, more attractive version, the one who succeeds in everything. We think if we just become that guy or that gal, life will finally feel complete.
But as Alan Saunders wrote and John Lennon popularized, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Things don't always work out as intended, often through no fault of our own. The consequences of this perceived failure to meet the ideal can be depression, anxiety, and forgetting the blessings we do have. Our media-saturated world complicates this immensely with constant social comparison. Think of shows like Ally McBeal portraying Weltschmerz world weariness even amidst apparent success, because reality doesn't conform to idyllic visions.
This modern angst seems widespread.
It does. Post-WWII affluence paradoxically seemed to commoditize angst in literature and film. And tragically, we see rising rates of despair, like suicide and drug overdose, among younger generations facing intense pressure. Michel Houellebecq's novel Whatever paints a bleak picture of waiting for a sublime fusion with a phantom self in a theoretical paradise, only to realize it will not take place. The goal of life is missed.
So how does Kaizen offer an alternative way to understand life's game, beyond chasing this phantom ideal?
Well, first, it acknowledges the value of comparison, used correctly. Comparing ourselves to competitors, or even our past selves, can be useful for gauging efficiency and motivating harder work. A humble weekly Hansei ritual is a form of useful comparison, but Kaizen reframes the ultimate game. It suggests the game was never meant to be won, in the sense of reaching a final, static state of perfection. Like greyhounds chasing a mechanical hare they can never catch, the contest was never meant to be won. The chase itself is the point. Constant comparison to others or an idealized self leads inevitably to interminable discontentment. There's always another Mr. Jones who seems to have it better. Your idealized doppelganger is always ahead, eventually nearly out of sight.
And then there's the reality of human mortality.
Exactly. We are temporal beings. Memento mori, remember death reminds us. The end is nigh. Loved ones quietly blinking out of existence. Our health, wealth, and relationships are inherently vulnerable to illness, abuse, financial destitution, unpredictable catastrophes. Paula Hawkins wrote, "Holes in your life are permanent. You have to grow around them, like tree roots around concrete. Every fortress we build eventually falls."
So faced with this reality, Kaizen presents a choice.
Yes. Lament difficulties, stay in bed, dream of effortless eradication of problems, or get busy and take action. It brings us back yet again to the core Kaizen question. What small step could I take today which may, in the long run, improve my situation? Any step today is better than yesterday's inactivity. A 10-second workout should evolve into a 10-minute workout and keep compounding over time. This incremental approach prevents intimidation by focusing on the immediate here and now. Success isn't reaching the distant ideal. Success is achieved with each forward step taken today. The idealized future version of ourselves is a constantly moving goalpost anyway. A successful day, in Kaizen terms, isn't one where you score a goal, but one where you succeeded in mustering the tenacity needed to keep marking forward. The benchmark isn't comparing yourself to who someone else is today, but comparing yourself with who you were yesterday.
The book then addresses the common chasing rainbows or mountaintop metaphor for goals. Hollywood loves this.
They do. Hollywood mountain climbs glorify the climactic rise, and the brief jubilation at the summit think Rocky running up the steps. Then it fades to black, happily ever after implied. But reality is different. Real climbers spend mere minutes at the peak, face a long, dangerous climb down, days of recovery, and often a sense of melancholy returning to the humdrum. Then the desire for another mountain arises. This Rocky methodology is problematic because it romanticizes the process and ignores the grind. We might feel like Rocky for 30 seconds, but then fatigue sets in. Jogging around the park turns out to be pretty boring without the accompaniment of a Hollywood orchestra.
And life's real setbacks? Missed the bus, dropped college, fired, late rent, spouse left, illness, death. These lead many to abandon goals entirely to just stay in bed.
Which brings us to Robert Nozick's famous experience machine thought experiment from 1974. Imagine future psychologists could induce limitless pleasure, indistinguishable from reality. Would you plug in permanently?
Most people instinctively say no, right?
They do. And this is mirrored fictionally in The Matrix. The first Matrix simulation was apparently a paradise, but it was a disaster because people rejected the program, seemingly needing struggle, committing suicide en masse in the simulation. The point is, while escapism, drugs, gambling, internet addiction might dull the sharp edges of reality, it ultimately nullifies the very point of our presence in the real world. Jordan Peterson's philosophy resonates here. Life is hard. It's tainted by malevolence and betrayal. You need a meaning to offset that. And that meaning is found not in avoiding burdens, but in responsibility, voluntarily bearing the largest burden that you can bear. Peterson continues, the best way to pick up the burden is to continuously improve yourself. And that's where the meaning is to be found. The meaning is in the continual self-transcendence.
Self-transcendence, expanding beyond our current limits.
Exactly. Pamela G. Reed defines self-transcendence as the capacity to expand self-boundaries toward a greater awareness of one's philosophy, values, and dreams. This all points to the idea that the journey is the destination. Goal setting isn't about reaching a final port, it's about the growth that happens during the voyage. That land of plenty is just a pretense to get us moving. Robert Louis Stevenson, in his essay El Dorado, wrote beautifully, travel hopefully is a better thing than to arrive, and the true success is to labor.
So the labor is perpetual. No finish line.
Essentially, yes. You will always carry a load. There will be no time at which your to-do list is blank. No final summit of interminable bliss. Life grants transient moments of happiness and grand victories, absolutely, but they are fleeting by design. They should be seen as pleasant byproducts of the journey, not the sole purpose. As the Zen saying goes, attributed often to Jack Kornfield, after the ecstasy comes the laundry. Daily life continues. This is the Sisyphean struggle from Greek mythology. Sisyphus is condemned to roll a boulder uphill forever, only for it to roll back down each time he nears the top. Human achievement often feels similar. Each goal achieved, the boulder of your labor will skid down to its default position, and a new challenge arises.
But the conclusion isn't despair.
No, because Kaizen helps us manage this perpetual struggle, breaking it into daily steps. And Ikigai helps us find great pleasure in the labor of love itself, choosing a boulder we genuinely care about pushing. This leads to Albert Camus' famous conclusion in The Myth of Sisyphus. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. The meaning is in the striving, undertaken with purpose and small, consistent steps.
So what a journey we've been on. We've taken a deep dive into 4 incredibly powerful Eastern concepts: Lingchi, Hansei, Ikigai, and Kaizen, as presented in Anthony Raymond's How to Set Goals with Kaizen.
Yeah, starting with Lingchi, that death by 1,000 cuts, we learn to recognize how our undesirable life outcomes often don't come from a single catastrophic cause, but from the slow, cumulative effect of countless small failings, those little white lies, skipped workouts, moments of procrastination, or unkind words. It makes us cognizant of the quiet erosion of our goals and well-being.
Then Hansei, honest self-reflection, taught us the importance of critically analyzing our behaviors and taking responsibility for our shortcomings, without excuses. It's about looking back clearly to gain perspective on our strengths and weaknesses, helping us plot a viable course for self-improvement without getting bogged down in self-justification or self-flagellation.
Ikigai, your true calling, revealed how discovering that unique intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for can become your ultimate reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's the source of deep intrinsic motivation that impels us to achieve impressive feats, even when times are tough, because the work itself feels meaningful.
And finally, Kaizen, continuous improvement, empowered us with a practical method to master goal setting through daily incremental progress. It's about atomizing monumental challenges into manageable tasks, building psychological momentum from laughably small initial actions, and understanding that relentless consistency, not just sporadic Herculean effort, leads to remarkable achievement over time.
And Anthony Raymond firmly believes, and I think this deep dive shows, that each idea complements the other. Each one is lacking without the other. Lingchi provides the diagnostic awareness of the small problems. Hansei gives us the tools for introspection and course correction. Ikigai ignites the intrinsic motivation, the why. And Kaizen provides the practical daily framework for consistent action, the how. Without all 4 working together, the system loses its full power.
This holistic approach stands in really stark contrast to what the book calls the Rocky methodology. We all love that Hollywood montage of Sylvester Stallone running up the steps, right? But real-world goals aren't achieved in a 3-minute song. They take decades, they are laden with obstacles and setbacks like missed buses, illnesses, or job losses are part of the journey, not excuses to abandon our dreams. Kaizen reminds us that the euphoria of spontaneous, grand decisions often dissipates quickly, and that true, lasting progress is usually a quiet daily grind.
Which brings us back to that powerful philosophical question posed by Robert Nozick's experience machine. We seem to instinctively choose reality, despite its inherent problems and struggles, perhaps because that very struggle, undertaken purposefully, is what makes life meaningful. As Jordan Peterson puts it, the purpose of life is to find the largest burden that you can bear and then bear it. Find your meaningful struggle.
The path of self-improvement, of achieving meaningful goals, is indeed an endless incline, a journey without a final port. But maybe the true victory isn't reaching some mythical summit of interminable bliss. Maybe it's not about the destination at all, but the journey itself. It's about the quality of the striving, the number of days we have climbed.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, perhaps consider this divine quandary, this challenge. What small step will you choose to take today? What seemingly insignificant action will you commit to, knowing that it's another step out of the valley, another brick in your empire, another turn of that flywheel that, with consistency, will inevitably lead to your breakthrough? The climb continues, and the satisfaction is found not at the top, but in the continuous, incremental ascent itself.
We hope this deep dive helps you embrace that climb, find your Ikigai, practice Hansei, and take those small Kaizen steps every day. Until next time, keep digging, keep learning, and keep growing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.